roof who were watching as Samson amused them. Then Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, remember me again. Oh God, please strengthen me just one more time. With one blow, let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my 2 eyes." Then Samson put his hands on the 2 center pillars that held up the temple. Pushing against them with both hands, he prayed, "Let me die with the Philistines." And the temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and all the people. So he killed more people when he died than he had during his entire lifetime. All right, the story of Samson. Kind of fast forward a little bit. The story of Samson is really a story of a man who had a lot of potential, but consistently made poor decisions, made poor choices. Now, I know that that many of you, if not all of you maybe, know somebody like that. I've talked with some of you. I've talked, maybe it's a son or a daughter. Maybe it's a grandson or a granddaughter. Maybe it's a person down the street. Maybe it's a relative. Maybe it's not. But a person who has a lot of potential, you say, this person has the potential to do good. This person is a smart person. They're brilliant. Or they could be if they'd only exert themselves. This person has the potential for so much good, to go so far, but they keep making poor choice after poor choice after poor choice. Maybe they married or they're dating the wrong person. They're following the wrong crowd. They've gotten into drugs. They got out of school. They just don't care about school or whatever it is. We know people like that, don't we? You don't have to raise your hand, but how many of us were those people at one time? I was. I don't claim that I had so much potential, but I'm here, so that was some potential anyway. But I had a lot of potential in my teenage years and in my young adult years, but I squandered everything that I had. I was kind of like the prodigal son. I squandered things. It wasn't until I was 25 or thereabouts that I made the choice that Samson finally made. You see, Samson finally made a good choice. He chose God. In the very end, he went to God, a place we didn't read much about him doing. He went to God and said, "God, just give me the strength one more time, and I'll do what I was put here to do." And with that, he destroyed more Philistines, more of the enemy than he had done all of his life. If he'd have made better choices, he could have done this already and not died in the way he did. But because of his choices, because of people's choices, because of our own choices, at times we live a harder life than when we make good choices, don't we? I'm not saying if you make all good choices that your life's going to be rosy. Jesus never promised us a rose garden. Y'all, I've said that before. But I guarantee you the poor choices we make will make life harder for us. Samson, he kind of mirrored or paralleled Israel. His choices that he made mirrored Israel's choices. He chose to lay with a prostitute, okay? Well, what is it we hear throughout the Bible that Israel prostituted themselves to idols, to other gods? And God hated that more than anything. That's normally when he took his protection away. Samson chose to intermarry with the Philistines, but he wasn't the only one. Others were doing the same thing. And he chose to neglect the laws of God. The law of intermarriage, the rules and laws of a Nazarite, touching a dead animal, making the decision to share the information about his hair, and his hair was cut. This is a stretch. It may not be right, but some people say that he was also eating grapes because he was near a vineyard in our story, but that may or may not be true. But the fact is, Samson made these poor choices to neglect the laws of God. He broke the 10 commandments. He broke the other commandments that God gave. And because of this, and because Israel did the same, there were consequences. Israel's consequence was, when a judge was around, they would do right, and God would protect them. The thing about the book of Judges, I'm reading through it right now, and the thing about the book of Judges is, say, one judge, judge for 20 years, and when he died, they went back to their old ways. You know, it's like the next generation says, "Oh, the heck with that! I don't remember that." So they go their own way. They start prostituting themselves to idols and worshiping other gods and doing this and doing that. And the consequence is that God takes away His protection. Takes away His protection because they fall from Him. These are the consequences of poor choices. Samson, by making all these poor choices, I believe he led a much more difficult life than he had to. A man with lots of potential. I believe that the same way we can lead a much more difficult life when we make those poor decisions in our own lives. Folks, we can do the same three things as Samson and Israel. We can worship other idols, prostituting ourselves to these idols. Now, what is it, the idol that we hear about the most? We don't really, worship statues and stuff today, but we oftentimes hear about money, right? Money is an idol that we worship. And it is. Jesus said you can't have two gods. You can't, worship money and me. Basically, money is an idol. But there are other idols out there. We so focus on that sometimes we forget that there are other idols that we can worship to put before God. The idol, I believe there's an idol of what other people think. I don't know what you will call it. But we make it so important. We try to climb the right ladders. We try to put on a show. We put on masks so that other people see not who we are, but something else. We try to go in the right social places, do the right things so that people will look at us and think higher of us. And we get so involved in that we forget the person that God created. We forget the God who created us. We try so hard to be somebody we're not. We basically make that our idol. There are many other idols that we can fall into. Power, again, finances. Our job can become an idol when that becomes the most important thing. When we're such workaholics that we never spend time with family, but all the time on the job. We never spend time worshiping God, except maybe Sunday morning because, we have to close on Sunday. These can be our idols as well. Not only can we worship other idols, but we can intermarry our belief system. Intermarry our belief system. A lot of people today call themselves spiritual people. They believe in Christianity or God or something like that, but they believe in karma. And if I do enough good will come back to me. If I do enough bad, it's just a spiritual thing. There's a lot of people, obviously there are a lot of people in other religions, Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, and so forth. And then there are us that look at these other ways of life. Now, it's okay to understand in our small group, we learned about other religions. But the fact is, there are people that say, "Ooh, I like that. I'm going to make that a part of my life. I like that. I'm going to make that a part of my belief. I'm a Christian. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. But you know what? I think they got this right over here. God says no, but I'm going to agree with them. I think they got a good idea. I'm going to make that a part of my belief." And we start intermarrying our beliefs with other beliefs. And we water down our faith. We water down the Christianity that we have. Because we've allowed some other kinds of beliefs that are contrary to what God says into our faith. We intermarry our belief system, just like they intermarried physically. And obviously, we as Christians neglect the laws of God as much as anybody else has ever as well. As much as anybody else. And it's called sin. Y'all know what I'm talking about. We sin. We make poor decisions, and the decisions we make cause us to sin, or they come about because of sin in our lives. And we make excuses. Well, I'm not perfect. I can't be perfect, so I guess it's okay if I got this sin in my life. I guess it's okay if I don't do this right because, I can't be. God doesn't expect me to be perfect. Well, you know what? In Scripture, in the Gospel of Mark, look it up. Or maybe it's Matthew, sorry. You have to read both books. It says, "Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." God doesn't want you to be perfect? Baloney. He does too. He wants you to be perfect. He wants you to strive for perfection. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to always make it right, does it? Does it mean that we can always are we never going to make poor decisions? No, we're going to make poor decisions from time to time. The great thing about our God is even though He expects perfection, or He expects us to strive for perfection, He forgives us when we don't make it. That's the great thing about our God. He says, I'm holding you up to this level here, but when you don't make it, I'm going to forgive you. But it doesn't mean that you don't strive here. It doesn't mean that you allow yourself to sin and make excuses about your sin. Sin is something that rots inside of us. And the longer we sin, the more sins we commit, the harder it gets to live with Jesus and this sin. It rots us from the inside out. Think about your poor decisions that you may have made or that you might make in the future. Maybe this week, maybe you made yesterday or the day before. Don't get too down on yourself. Ask for forgiveness. And then start working towards better decisions, better choices. Ask God's help. He wants to. He'll be more than happy to help you with this. And then start striving for being a better person each day than you were the day before. Hey, it may take a lifetime. For some of us, we may not even get there. But we can strive for it. We can strive for better decisions every day. Every day that we live. Finally, it took him to the end of his life, but Samson finally made the right choice. Let us make those right choices as well.